Hello, good morning, everyone.
Morning, Dr. Ting.
Morning.
Hi, Faru. Hi, Nolinda. Hi, Aisha. Hi, Afika.
Good morning, Dr. Ting.
Good morning. Happy Raya.
Thank
Still
you.
in Raya?
Thank you, Doctor.
Still in Raya mode ka, or already come down already?
In Raya
Monday is working.
Monday is working, so this weekend is gonna be the last mode of celebration, Okay. Is it a very busy Raya here?
Normal one lah.
Oh no,
Just
yeah,
family
family,
gathering.
a lot. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I wasn't around. I was away in Penang for a few days, so I just got back yesterday. So I wasn't sure like how's the mood of Raya here. Okay, let's get started so that those of you who are rushing for your Raya lunch or whatever, like house visiting and all that, can go ahead later on, because I have prepared the second half of the class with a pre-recorded lecture on the law of thought. Okay, today we'll try to finish up the contractual matters as much as possible. If we cannot finish, it's also okay. I'll let you off a bit early because it is still sort of like a holiday here. So yeah, so then we can continue next week if there's any issues. But before we get that going, let's get your attendance first. You're okay with this sort of arrangements?
Yes, should
yes,
be
we
okay,
are
Dr. Ting.
Okay. To be 11 of us. Who is the one person missing? Okay, never mind. Okay, let me try to see if you can take the attendance for 11. Oh, no, this is, wait, hold on. Not this one, not this one. If you can take, if you can't, then we have to do it later lah.
Cannot, Doctor.
Yeah, I think we found the thing already. So the system now is that unless you're in the hours of the class, they don't let you take this attendance, okay? All right, but never mind. What I can do is this one later. I know some people may be already off already. We'll see what time we finish class lah, yeah? Okay, if it's a bit early, then I will do manual for you lah, huh? If it's like about time, then I will leave the computer on. Then maybe you all anytime after 11 can drop by to take the attendance lah, huh? Okay. Right. One thing before we get started, let's talk about the assignment. How many of you have already started?
Not yet, Dr. Ting.
Oh, okay. Let me do the recording first then. Recording is on. Share the screen again. Yeah, as much as I would like to give you guys a lot of time, unfortunately we don't have, because literally you need to hand this in by latest, I don't know, 4th May. Yeah, I put here first, but if you really have some issues, delay for a few days is not a big issue lah. Like up to 2nd or 3rd, it should be fine, but not more than that, because you'll be sitting for exam on the 4th, 5th, and then after that we need to proceed with the marking and all that before we submit the marks to the profiling around 9th or the 10th, I think. So things are quite tight in that sense lah. So yeah, so I hope you guys after this Raya, please get started, because otherwise it can be quite you can't finish later lah, or you may not be able to score because the time is very short and you couldn't do a good job lah. Actually, this is not a very difficult assignment. And I'm not expecting a lot as well. Okay, so there's about 3 case studies here, which I've already reduced from previous 4 case studies. This is actually based on your organization policy, which is, depending on your organization, you may be using, like, let's say if you're working for SEB, you may have your own SEB standard form of contract, or let's say if you're working for JKR, you do have your own JKR standard form of contract. And if you are working for developers, maybe you'll be looking at PAM form a lot more than others. Some of your organization may be even looking at international forms, you see, so I don't know. But I leave it to you to use your own organization, things that you are most familiar with, okay, in contract management. Any terms and clauses and forms that your organization is using for your project, okay? And then I want you to use that as the basis to describe the various issues here, okay? And say, based on your contract document for your project, you are required to report on the procedures, actions required or taken to resolve issues dealing with time management, EOT, and LAD. Okay, so this one here, I'm not even saying that, go and find a problem. I'm just saying that based on your own standard form of contract, say if you're using JKR standard form of contract, or you're using PAM form standard of contract, or you're using CIDB, or you're using PWD 2 or 3, it doesn't matter, or you're using your own organization like SEB, or SAMDA, or, some big organization, they have their own standard form of contract. So you go and extract out those clauses that is related to time management, meaning things like submission of working schedules and what are the issues, what are the clauses related to schedules, scheduling, submission of schedules, monitoring of schedules, you see. Then after that, when delay happens, how does your contract clauses mention about delays? What do they say about delays? And what do they say about what can be applicable for EOT? And then what is their procedures for EOT, and what is the LAD? So this is requiring you to go back to your standard form of contract and read your standard form of contract and extract those clauses out from your standard form of contract. You don't have to give me the reporting on you don't have to cut, the clauses related to those clauses, you can put it in the appendix. Okay, so you can have a case study 1 with appendix 1, okay, because otherwise your whole 4 or 5 pages of content will be filled up with clauses. You see, I don't want to see that. So your report will be basically your report, meaning that you'll be writing like, okay, this is what the clauses says, clause whatever mentioned, this is about time management, it's about scheduling, and what does it say about scheduling. You are trying to interpret the time management clauses, EOT clauses, and LAD clauses. Time management, of course, is time scheduling and delays together. And then EOT is a remedial for the delays. You see, it's like how to get extension of time since you already have a delay that is unavoidable. So what are the reasons that is allowable for EOT? And then if you really cannot get EOT, the other remedy for the contract will be LAD. EOT and LAD are basically remedies. They are a way to improve the situations, okay? So this is case study number 1. If you really go through this, this is not hard, okay? But people like Saul, I think you're working for international firms. So I'm pretty sure you have got international contracts. So I mean, it's time for you to, as an engineer, to get used to contract, to look at contract, to understand the contract that you frequently use and read it carefully. And you may find out that, oh, you know, I have been executing or administrating things not so correctly, you see. And of course, here, if you can also add in the forms itself, but your company's practices is another way, or you have a separate form SOP for EOT, delay management, and LAD, you know, you can actually talk about that in comparison with your contract form, okay? So I think that will make a superb, very, very superb. I mean, like if you've done the blah, blah, blah that I've told you, you know, then that one is based on that, that is, you know, if you write it really well, it's probably just an A-, you know, 70 plus kind of marks. But if you really make some comparison and understand your own company's procedures, then that will probably bring you over an A, you see. So that will be how I would be looking at marking the papers, you see. I mean, like, a lot of you may be from JKR, a lot of you are from Sarawak, so you probably will go for Sarawak form of contract. If everybody gives me the same thing, you know, then obviously, I mean, the writing cannot be exactly the same, you know, but then if you actually add in your own practices or your own case studies or your own issues that you have found in your case studies, then that will give you the additional edge, you know, in terms of marks, okay? That would be the extra that I would like to see, okay? Second one is explain again. I am not really I'm not really expecting you to have a case studies talking about money issues. So this part here requires you to have already gone through LU9 payment, okay? And that payment, whole pre-recording on payment, you have to go through that. And then I need you to pick up the same thing again, pick up clauses from case study, pick up the clauses from the US standard form of contract, just like case study 1. Yeah, based on case study 1, and ask you to talk about how your project actually execute, how your contract actually asks your project to or require your project to execute interim and final, interim and final claims. Okay, interim and final claims. Okay, interim penultimate penultimate and final claims. Okay, and then payments. How does the client, I mean, what are the clauses saying about payments and time for payments? This one here, if you have some literature review on it, you can also put it in if you want to. That will be also quite an additional thing for yourself. You know, there may be some author that have already talked about payment issue in JKR form, or payment issue, payments, payment time and requirement and all that for your contract, then yeah, you can make some references to that as well when you write your own interpretation in that sense. So the other part that I want you to think about is, you know, in your company, your practices for payment is like how, you know, is do you really have you ever managed non-payment in your project? Let's say you're working from a contractor. Did you actually faces people who are giving you late payment? Your client paying you really late, and how late is late? You know, I want to see that. You know, like let's say, you know, in one of the project after COVID, you have got a payment that's extremely delayed. it took you first 6 months to get a payment, and then, or some of you have problems with certain projects that you don't get payment. When you don't get the payment, it's about like after even 1 year, you have been asking for payment and the payment did not come. We will categorize that as non-payment. And then how did you guys manage that? Did you write to the client to ask for payment? Did you take any legal actions? Were you able to take any dispute and legal actions? And what was the whole solution it is to it? Do you sue the client's bankruptcy? Or do you just keep quiet and let them owe you, you see? So talk about that. I want to see that, okay? Right, and then the third case studies is about work on site that requires supervision from client's representative or SO. Okay, so this one means that this question is about standing instructions. So talk to me about standing instructions. So this is really on past 3 weeks of lecture, LU8, LU9, LU10. Okay, so standing supervision, like what kind of job needs standing supervision? Maybe for mechanical people, it will be like maybe installation of some mechanical parts or some form of important sections in your design. So you need that particular standing supervision, and somebody to be there when their representative to be there when you do the job. Like for us, civil is probably mostly on pilings, on foundation, other sort of work that will require standing supervision. So tell me what kind of work that you have that needs standing supervision, and describe the contractual procedures on standing supervision. And then if what does the contract says when about opening up? Let's say they didn't come and they ask you to open up, and then what is your contract talking about testing and making good? This is separate. Standing supervision is more related to opening up. Okay. Testing and making good is another separate clauses. So these two are usually these two are more closely related. Okay, maybe I can put like this. Opening up. So, what is the deadline? Let's say, do they allow you to, like if you want to call for standing supervision, what is the deadline? Do you have to call for like 3 days early? What is it stated in your contract, and how is it that you practice? And then when, they don't come, or they come, and then what happens? So is it okay? They sign on the paper and that's it, or if they don't come and they ask you to open up, what does the clause say about that? What does the clause say about the contractor's right, the client's rights, and what does the contract say about the client's obligation, the contractor's obligations, and all that? Okay, and then testing and making good is basically what kind of things, what kind of material, what kind of parts that needs testing. And then if the testing report comes back to be no good, let's say test cube, because you've already done the job, you see, say testing is like always a bit later because the work is there already, you send the material for testing, but then you are using the material for the project is already continuous. You cannot wait for the testing report to come back normally, you see. So if let's say that the testing report, let's say, for example, test cube come out to be not so good, what is the making good? What are the making good clauses? Okay. This is not talking about how to physically improve the situation, but what does the contract says about making good? What does the contract says about the contractor's obligations, the client's obligation, their rights and all that towards things that are not so good quality on site. Okay. All right. So you can have you can use projects. Okay. If you don't have it, then this part here you should be talking about the contract documents used in your in all your projects or in your organization, and then you must pick up the right clauses in the contract, put it in the appendix. Appendix 1 will be with case study 1, appendix 2 will be with case study 2, appendix 3 will be with case study 3, okay, and so on and so forth. Right, and then so you explain, express the contract clauses, okay, express the contract clauses and how it's relevant to different party, how it means, how you express the obligation and rights of the different parties, and what is your, instead of proposal to overcome, it'll probably be like, explain, compare with actual practices in your project organization, okay? And your conclusion should be related to what you think, what you think. What is you have to summarize what did you get from the contract clauses for all these three, and then what do you think is the lacking in terms of practices, or the practices is actually quite okay, but the difficulty lies in the contract clauses is lacking of what is it, like what is the thing that is not so sufficient, and what can be done, what should be the way forward. This will make a very good conclusion. Conclusion is just not only like half a page, okay, I'm done, that kind of thing. It's more like summarize the thing from above, like what you get out of these three case studies, and then what is the way forward, what can be better, what can be the recommendations, and what can be the way forward to make this industry a better place in terms of contract. So these are the things that we want to get and see from your assignment. It's not a lot. I think the level of complexity and difficulties in doing this is not a lot, but I would say the work is very tedious. It's very require a lot of writing. It requires a lot of checking, and going through the clauses and all that. Complexity wise, it's very straightforward. It doesn't need a rocket scientist. It doesn't need somebody who's extremely clever to understand what I want, you see. And the thing that you need to do is also not complicated. It's just a matter of, it's actually very tedious. It needs patience. It needs time. Okay. So I need you to get started as soon as possible. Any questions so far?
No, it's okay with me.
Okay, thank you so much. Have you guys actually submitted the task group project to ELIT as well? Anyone who hasn't submitted to ELIT, please do so, huh? Apparently it's a paid project, so only one person needs to submit. Okay, I just need to take a record on that one. That one, you make submit on ELIT, fine, okay? But this one, the due date is serious. This on ELIT, because my mode of submission is on ELIT. So you need to submit on ELIT on the due date, okay? Why I put as a first, because 1st of May is Labor Day. So some of you who needs touching up on the 1st of May, you can have the whole day to do so, all right? And and I know second, you've got your presentation for your RPs, and on the 3rd is a Friday, you probably will be a bit more tight on revision as well for the weekend exams, so that's why I set it on the 1st of May. But if you really need more time, you just let me know. And I will not, you just let me know that you are going to be submitting a little bit late. It's okay, I would not penalize you, but I probably should be able to give you up to on the 3rd, okay? So that one is between us lah, how Budi bicara. You can just message me personally, and we can negotiate a time, but nothing more than a 4th or a 5th, because I really need to finish my marking. I have deadlines too, you see. So if you're really late, I cannot seriously read your stuff. Okay, so I think 3rd will probably be one of the better, good for you, good for me kind of date. So extra 2 days extension if necessary, but now we set it at the 1st of May. So from today up to 1st of May, you literally have about 18 days, more or less 18 days. Okay. These 18 days, if you split it out, one case studies, you take about 6 days, that's about a week, 5 days, so do it slowly every day, then you still can finish, okay? Yeah, take 5 days each, and then after that, last 1 or 2 days to do some formatting, nice formatting, write up a nice conclusion, do your reference list and all that. Okay, so that would be a good responsible assignment. Don't leave things until 30th of April, and then you are sitting there, going through the contract, and trying to write something and chuck everything in, and then ask for a few days extension and just bye-bye. So sometimes a lot of things is doing it slowly, like doing it, spread it over a few days, like today you target, I'm going to take 1 or 2 hours to pick up all the closes, and after that I'm going to write about certain things, certain parts. Tomorrow I continue. It works really well that way, seriously. And it's less stressful, and you can allocate some time to other subjects as well. Happy fee. Okay, you're in. All right.
Thank you, Prof.
No problem. Okay, anyone else here but not taking attendance here? I think we've only got 11 of us. Yeah, so I think we're all in already. I can close this, I presume. Okay. Right, then we will wait until the next 11 o'clock to do this, okay? All right, if we have no more issues on the project, and anyone else have anything that you want to talk about in terms of projects? Assignment. Okay. If no more, then we will proceed to other things about contract. Okay, I mean, I really think if I want to spend even another class with you, I'll be happy to talk about contract. Yeah, I mean, like what we've gone through, I wouldn't say it's too little, but it can be a lot more. But with the time that we have and the LUs that we have, I think these are pretty much it already. And we've spent the first whole class, physical class on time, and then we've spent the second half of the physical class on quality, and I think we've got most of the things covered. And then I've given you a whole pre-recorded lectures on payment and also money issues. I won't call it cost, but it's money issues, budget money issues on payment issues on in the contract. What we are going through, okay, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going through is typically these are the things that you can see in most contract and most standard forms of contract, okay? And the accuracy of these notes here, it really depends on what contract that you're looking at. If you're looking at PAM, PAM also talk about payment, PAM ultimate, PAM also talk about EOT and all that. Generally, this is what the contract covers about all these elements in the contract. But to be really specific, that's why your assignment, I ask you to go back to your own contract. I want you to get used to your own contract. You cannot rely on just general, explanation on this, So the notes is like a supplementary documents or a supporting for you to understand. It's just like reading textbook. You read textbook, the textbook tells you this, but in terms of the application, you still need to go back to your own company, your own organization, and then use this as something for you to, let's say you read some clauses and you go like, very difficult to understand. What does it really mean? Look at Dr. Ting's notes and say what does it says about that. and it's, oh, maybe from there, from my notes, it helps you to understand your clauses better in that sense, So it's like they're supporting one another. You see, many of you are from different industries, and then some of you are more focused in contracting, some of you are more focused in consultancy, some of you are actually working for international firms, some of you are working for very big GLCs, So the clauses itself does vary a little bit one from one another. So the actual details of things like how many days exactly, what is the number recorded for LAD exactly, these are things that you need to refer back to your own contract. Certain SOP may be even more specific in certain contracts, so we cannot really tap out everything. There's just too many in this world. Even like projects in China. I mean, if we have got Chinese students here, their contract will be very different. But it doesn't run away from all these foundation issues that we are talking about here. Okay, like scheduling, EOT, working program, PQP, work method statement, and then submissions, and then testing, opening, outstanding supervision, instructions. And this sort of thing is actually quite standard. Okay. And then, of course, variation, payment, penultimate claims, interim penultimate claims, final payments, delays in payment. What are the remedies in delays of payment? Some clauses, some international forms may have like penalty to the people who are not paying, but Malaysian forms don't have, you see. So, yeah, so we want you to be able to discern, to really read the contract and discern what is there and how to administer your contract correctly. And then if the current practice is differing very much with the contract, then you have to be very careful, because in the end, if you do have dispute, you go to dispute resolution mode, which we'll talk about next week. Then you may not have any advantage at all, because you have not been following the rules, you see, that has been taken up. And that's why a lot of government agency, especially in terms of contract management, they that when they go for dispute, like go to court or go to arbitration, they end up losing the case, because in the first place they did not follow the procedures correctly. Yeah. So I mean, that would be. And of course, the other issues is because with government contract, a lot of this government contract in itself is already very client friendly. So in a way, it is already a very unfair contract to start off with. You see, so then the court will say that when they look at the clauses, it's just actually beyond the principle of natural justice. You see, so they will say, okay, you have already given a very unfair contract to start off with, and you did not practice it properly. So therefore, we will not award you the case, and all that. So be careful, we have to be careful. I mean, of course, we don't wish for projects to go up to that kind of level or that kind of extent. So as much as possible, want to solve problems, solve things on the ground basis, whereby project team basically work well with one another, and then project manager as a role, as a professional roles, you want to execute and administer the project justly, fairly, and not just client friendly, So I think a lot of us, because we are working for a specific client and we think that client is a paymaster, who holds the money is the king, and therefore we bow down to the king, so we bow down to the money. So yeah, so that as engineers, our inherent, in the DNA coded in terms of being an engineer should be professionalism. And professionalism talks about being just, being fair, making decision based on logical procedures, standards procedures, following the regulations, following the rules, holding up the integrity of the project. And the most important thing is the project integrity and the public interest and public health and safety. So that should be our number one priority. Then client comes in, maybe the third sort of things, you see. So yeah, so we cannot be so, our job is not to serve Ting, our job is to serve the public. So when we make decision, when we make our doing, things is, I mean, when we come to decision making on project sites, we should be on that kind of level, not so much on, oh yeah, the client is asking me to do this, so I have to do this, and the client is asking me to take out the bakao piles, I'll take out the bakao piles. The client is like taking me to record, like not set, I record set. I don't think we don't want that. That is really against the contract and against the our principles, our integrity as engineers. Okay, so yeah, so we have gone through the major stuff. We've already gone through all the major stuff of time, cost, quality. Is there anything that you want me to discuss with you? Yeah, like on the previous notes. The other day we have a very good discussion with a lot of you coming back to me, asking me certain things that has occurred in your projects, I mean, that is really interesting, yeah. Okay, if not, then we will move on to now things that are not exactly covered in all these specific time, cost, quality issues. Okay, these are the other stuff, but it's all in the contract, in any engineering contract as well, and one of them being variation. Normally, variation can be put under time. Oh, sorry, variation is actually related to all three: time, cost, quality. Correct enough? Because variation is about changing the scope of work, changing the work itself. So that is actually related to things that are related in quality, like testing, making good, and sending supervisions, and additional work. Do you need any connection into the current work? How does it differ from the current work, and that sort of variation in the quality, how is it catered for? So these are all variation related to quality. Related to money is even more straightforward. When you have a variation, it's either you add money or you cut money, so that one is definitely, you need a set of procedures for that when it comes to money. And then having variation is also an issues with time. Most projects, okay, when they actually have a VO, a variation order or change order, or modification or amendments to the original scope of work, especially addition, there is usually a very, very, very good and strong point for extension of time. Okay, so it is a fantastic excuse for extension of time. So normally, change order, you can see in most EOT reasons for EOT, change order or VO will definitely be one of them. Okay, so this is also related to time. So therefore, I take it out and say that, let's not put it under any of them, and we treat it like a separate thing. Okay, right? So we said this modification can be due to many reasons. Sometimes, especially unforeseen site conditions. When we reach a site, the boundary is different, the situation is different, the ground level is slightly different. Or when you do digging or piling, or when you get down to the site, mechanical, electrical, when you get down to the site, the location actually tells you that, I mean, there's some variation in the projects, then therefore you need to adjust, you need to put it in a different place, mechanical, electrical, especially because your job comes after civil, you see. So when the civil people build it like that already, and then it may vary from your original drawing. You're supposed to put your tanki or your parts or your pump or whatever in this location, but end up you cannot, and you change location, and that may require you to add certain things on that specific location or on that specific area, then you need to do some addition. So yeah, it happens to all the engineering. So that's why it is in all the contract. Yeah. So process of handling variation, again, is actually formal. It's actually a very formal procedures. And then usually two things that you need to worry about variation is, number one is the valuation. I mean, whether it's the additional variation or a deduction variation. Then the second issue after you get that sorted out is the addition, then is the valuation of that variation. Okay, how much you're going to cut, how much you're going to add. That is one of the biggest issues. Okay, then when this variation is allowed, meaning that it's actually okay to proceed with it, what is the procedures to go through this variation? Calling for variation procedures. Okay, so these are the parts that we have to clearly focus on, when we talk about variation. Okay, we say whether, okay, so you determine whether it's an add or a deduct. So a beneficial variation is a type of variation that will result in positive changes. So it's an add to the scope. It will usually add to the schedule. It will also add to the cost. It will add to the money bit as well. So this is a beneficial, but the word beneficial is actually very, very, like I say, not all the time we want variation, because that actually affects our work. Because normally when you have a beneficial variation or additional variation, add variation, they wouldn't allow you to claim for loss and expenses, meaning that if let's say the variation comes at the end of the project, okay, or somewhere towards the end of the project, and then they do give you extension of time, okay, yes, they will allow you to give you extension of time, and that could be extending 1 month, 2 months, etc., etc. But most of the clauses will tell you that you cannot claim for additional GMP, general and preliminaries. So that means you can put your loss and expenses. That means you have to put your man on site. You have to put your site office on site. There will be additional ACON costs, additional staff costs. All these things cannot be claimed. So not all the time we like variation. Okay, unless the variation really, really is substantial, unless you've got a very good value for your variation, meaning that the variation was actually quite excellent, and does not happen very often, because most QSs, most engineers, when they go through your contract before you guys sign it, they will do adjustments to the rate already that you propose. So it will normally be adjusted back to a very standard, very market kind of rate that you don't benefit too much, but you don't lost, kind of thing. So yeah, so additionally variation, it may be good when you don't have a job lining up. It may be good when this is really a very a dry time in your business. It is nice to continue, have some more work, and then your workers have few more months of salary to go. Like it pays for your expenses, kind of thing. I mean, like your project pays for your expenses, kind of thing. So yeah, so don't take the word beneficial as something wonderful, So we have to take note of this from the business perspective, that is actually depending on when the variation comes and depending on how your company is like at that point in time, or that organization is like at that point in time. Even when your variation comes at the end, whereby you've got like 10 jobs lining up, you can send your man off to make more money, and then you've got this variation coming in, you can have a headache, honestly, and then you need to specially arrange for a team of people to be there. It does take money, it does take costs, it does take overheads as well to run it. So yeah, so not necessarily good, yeah. So all right, so there are some some beneficial variation order remove unnecessary costs from the project. Okay, so so here also means that some beneficial variation to the client would means that if they can actually abort some part of the work that is unnecessary, or take out some steps that are unnecessary, then it is a deduction on your part, or it could be a non-deduction at all. So they will let you have it, even though you change the work procedures. This is something like when you are on site, and then you see that particular way of doing things, the original way of doing things is actually not very good, and you propose another way of doing things that cut down like 2 steps or 3 steps or cut down certain materials and all that, and then the client say, okay, no addition, but they let you change it without any changes in the variation. But that is also beneficial. That is considered as beneficial because you may be given additional time and all that, but no change to cost. So in that sense, it can also means a beneficial variation. Okay, so yeah, so of course contractually it should not be how do you call it? I mean, how to say it? I mean, it's not something that is taking too much away from the contract itself, put it this way. So yeah, so that one is something that will also be considered as a variation, beneficial variation. So a direct addition, that one is very clear. Sometimes a deduction in work that did not require any cutting of prices, that one is also a beneficial variation. Okay, but that did not require cutting of prices, would means that you have to still do it up to the contractual standard. You know, like whatever that standard that is required, you must do it up to that. You know, there shouldn't be any discrepancy. Like supposed to be, you know, like, you know, a table has 4 kaki, you know, and then you say that it's too difficult to build 4 kaki and you can do it with 3 kaki or 2 kaki, you know, and then in the end the table topple, you see. So that one is big discrepancy already. So you have to still, you can take out 1 or take out half, or you know, or take out make it a bit smaller than 4 kaki, but then it's still 4 kaki, you know, something like that. Yeah. So it's like you do not incur a huge discrepancy to the original contract, any deduction or any aborting of work that is not necessary. You see, you know, sometimes, like I said, it happens on a lot of sites. You go there, things looks different. Like, for example, the mechanical electrical example that I gave just now, you know, you may be wanting to pasang the tanki in this location, but then because the civil people actually make it a bit too small, the space, you cannot do it, so you have to change it to another outdoor one. And then, yeah, put it outdoor may be a lot easier to pasang, you know, so yeah, but then it does require you to maybe change the plumber or the wire, I mean, so the piping or the wire a little bit, but then you put it outdoor, you know, it's actually quite easier. It's a lot easier for your man to put it there, you know, and then so therefore we say that, okay, let's even out, let's, you know, do this. We call for variation to change it outside, but there is no additional or no deduction in the cost, and we do you change location, you know, but then this changing of this location does not affect the final performance of the pump, of the tank and all that. You know, putting it outside does not mean that, you know, the pressure will be a lot lower, you know, or, you know, changing this location does not put it like making it harder to pasang, you know, and then making it a lot more dropping the standard of the contract, meaning that dropping the standard of the project. So it will still be able to produce that kind of pressure. It will still be able to perform exactly the same way. It should still be able to have the same lifespan. Putting it, you know, here we expect this to be 15 years lifespan. Then this one putting it outside is also 15 years lifespan. So all these things are quite even out. So yeah, we do that, and there will be no changes. So that is also quite common. But if you do need an additional time, you may request for additional time. Okay. Deduction for detrimental variation is also quite specific. It's actually, you know, the money will be deducted. There will be definitely a very obvious deduction in the money bit. Okay, and so the other things that can happen with deduction is really the quality was actually reduced. So the other example that I've given you before, you know, we've got clients who actually give you the contract, okay, and then they confirm that you're supposed to do according to this drawing. So you quoted, you know, 1 manhole, 2 bakao piles, or 1 manhole, 2 billion pepper pots, 2 billion pepper pots. And then when you reach the site, the client says, "Aiya, the ground conditions so good lah, no need to have so many lah, you know. And then, just take out everything lah, no need to put William pause at all even, kind of things that it happens. So if you agree to that, they will do a deduction variation. Some contractor likes that because you don't have to go and put extra money to order all these Balearian pepper paws, and then therefore, but it has to come a bit early lah. I mean, after you have already deduct everything, after you already purchased everything, you're already putting orders, the thing is already on the way, and then you tell me that I'm not going to use it, and you want to deduct my money. What am I going to do with that 1,000, or 2,000 pieces of lamb pepper paws? They are money, they are not cheap as well, you see. So it adds up to be a lot of money. So in situations like that, actually very detrimental in that way, So but quality normally, sometimes on site, some client may actually want to reduce quality, and then because of that, they reduce the cost. But of course, there are some clients who decided that I don't need this part anymore, or they run out of cash, or they run out of funding, or instead of building all the 50 units, they build 35 or something like that. They will try to negotiate with you and do that, and then that requires you to pick out certain parts, and then that is a big headache, So a lot of things are actually need to be revalued. So that would be a very big issue in terms of variation in that way. But like I said, if it's about material, or the situation could be also like the contractor or the supplier actually comes in with a very substandard material, which is not up to the standard. Like it's just like you order you order a Toyota, a Camry, and then the supplier gives you a Toyota Vios kind of thing. So when it comes, it's like, okay, both are cars. So are you going to pay the Camry car price? Obviously not lah. So this is a situation that if you do accept this lower quality, Vios is not a bad car, I'll just take it anyway, So then we need to do a detrimental variation. Okay, so you get the picture, huh? Okay, so yeah, so like I said, it could be due to client themselves, it could be due to the contractor being a bit sneaky, or the supplier don't have certain things, and then they try to push off their old material. Like some suppliers or some, it's very common now. We all know as a contractor. Sometimes we from past projects we order many piles, and then end up don't use so much. But the power senior standard is a little bit different from the power senior standard in this particular project, you see. So if I can put your power sitting there, on your store, and leave it to rot for the rest of the life, So keep that might be a bit more environmentally friendly lah, like you want to recycle lah, So we take the thing and then we go to the new client and say that I've got, very fast, I straight away got this thing already. I can give you a bit of cheaper price. Would you take it? Kind of stuff, So then in the end, yeah, okay. So we do a bit of price reduction. Okay. So this will be some of the reason why we get detrimental variation. And of course, like I said, obviously client says that I want to cut this part out, this part cannot do. I do detrimental variation. I've seen many some engineers talking to me, and it says sometimes the contractor, they go to site, and then the drawing says this, they quoted this, and then when they reach the site, they say cannot do, I cannot do this, cannot do this. Oh, I got this blocking here, we got this block there. So I say fair enough, if they say they cannot do, then we go for variation lah. Then what to do? You still need to move the project. So these are some of the typical facing, but then a lot of contractor, obviously they will, if you're in a client position, a lot of contractor will also still want to negotiate that they don't want to do certain things, but they don't want you to cut them, you see. So that is up to the Budi Bicara between the client agency and also the contractor's agency. Like I said, if you don't cut prices but you reduce something, that one is considered you need to know whether in the end it actually affects the final, does it represent any huge discrepancy or represent any discrepancy in terms of quality of work for the project. and you can decide whether you want to have a detrimental or a beneficial variation. Okay, right. So this one here, causes of variation order, I think we can skip this. Okay, I've gone through that just now. Right, so a valuation of a variation, this is really, really very formal. I will talk about this inclusive of the, inclusive of the procedures. Okay, so then it'll be a bit easier to understand. So any variation of work must start off with some form of formal request. The request can come from the contractor. It can also come from the client agency, right? But what I mean by client is usually when the client make a request, it will be through the SO. Okay, the SO needs to go back to the client to ask. You need to check on every contract. There is what we call the power of authority by the SO. So this part here, if the SO can issue, some contract may give that power to the SO to actually request for variation. Some doesn't. If it doesn't, if there's a limitation to the power of the SO, under there is a close call variation. That means the SO cannot decide, therefore cannot simply request or give instruction on work order that requires changes, okay, in terms of cost and time. So what they will do is, when you see that, it means that this particular SO in your role will be discussing it with the client first. And the client will be the one that will instruct that request, okay, or give the SO the power to instruct that particular request, okay, or instructions, okay. So you have to be very clear. These procedures cannot allow one. When we do things, we have to do it step by step. You cannot skip here, skip there. Then you cannot cut this thing. So be very careful. If the contractor requests, then we say, okay, we want to request that we change the Boolean pulse to RC pulse, because there's a difficulty in buying Boolean pulse or the right sizes of Boolean pulse in this at this time, or in this in Malaysia at the moment. There is proof of difficulty of ordering, and then you also get prices for the RC pulse and show that RC pulse is actually of higher value, and you are not going to request for any additional money. Is this or something like that? When you do request, supporting documents is very important. Yeah. And the other day, I think it's 50 or somebody was asking me about, like getting quotation from the industry and all that. Yes, that is very important. Like a lot of times, if you already add in this document when you put in the request or instructions, it is a lot better to support your case. When you have proof that you've already written to like 3 or 4 or 5 different suppliers from West Malaysia, from Kedah all the way to Sabah, and nobody can give you these things, okay? Or even if they can give you, the price is too high. So therefore, you request for a change. So this is a good proof why you want to request for that change. There are certain situations that contractors sees, they really see that this particular design doesn't work. We've got cases before that, when we look at the design for the submarine pipe, the blocks, the anchor blocks that lies down the pipe or anchor the block into the river is really too small, and it only comprises of 2 boats. And at the location of that river, we think that this boat will be definitely washed away very soon. So we actually put in requests to ask to reconsider the design of the anchor blocks. But unfortunately, in that case, the SO and the designer themselves, they insist on going on the same route. And in the end, all the pipe was, floated up after a few weeks, because the block, somehow the current in the river actually loosened. Like there's a lot of movement under there, you see. So it actually loosened the block, and there's a lot of the block was actually detached from the pipe itself, and the pipe float up. Float up is very serious. Submarine pipe is supposed to submarine, you know, it's supposed to be underground, in the water, not floating. It's not called floating pipe. It's submarine pipe. So when it floated out, you know, in the middle of the night, you know, if you have boats, river transport running through it, you really could kill some people, you know. So it was a huge hoo-ha. So you see, when you have situation like that, when you request for variation, you know, you have to really, I mean, in today's system, this happens like maybe 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Sorry? Yeah, I mean, it happens a long time ago, but in today's practices, actually, there's a lot of improvement. When you request for variation like that, when the contractor requests you to change and all that, they may give you alternative. You may request them to give alternative design, which is actually checked and signed or verified by their own PE/PC. So this will be something that most engineers now, I mean, most client agency now would do, you see. Rather than them straight away say no to your request, they do not mind to actually look into the other parties, like a third party opinion on this matter. And then in the end, if they do issue instructions to change, then it will be it will be a more formal way of calculating the cost and time as well. So I think this is a better practice now.
Last time it was.
Who's talking here? Sorry. So is it you have a question?
No.
Okay, it's okay. I thought you have a question. Right. So yes. So it will first come with a request, okay, and then so it will first come with a request from somebody, and then there will be from either party, okay, and then there will be some usually when the request comes, it will be followed by some it will be followed by evaluation. How much things will be deducted? What are the things deducted or added? And what is the money value to it? And how does it affect the final contract sum? Okay. And these are the formal way of doing it. Okay. And once you've got that, both parties have to agree to that, to this particular changes, you know. Then what happened is actually some client, they are a bit sneaky in the way huh? When they request for it, they straight away give you a VO, okay, which is valued by their own QSs and their own party, okay, own engineers. So they don't allow you to negotiate. And principally, that is not supposed to be the case, huh? But they can say that, oh, I've already based it on the rates that you provided for, and I call for it. But I think the contractor should not be quietly taking this lah. You can actually request that I do not agree. You know, you can write in and say I do not agree. I do not believe that there is any clauses on any contract that actually forces VO onto contractors. Okay, they may be optional. I mean, there may be some form of clauses that open the door to have VOs, but usually it will be upon this sort of formal negotiation and also some form of discussion before you can actually order the VO. So do not simply just order the VO and say that you've already request for, you've already checked all the rates, you've already checked the prices that is already put in the sum, or it's already in the BQ, or it's already in the schedule of rates. So some clients do that, And some contractor, because it's actually not so bad, like so okay, I'm fine with it. So they just take it. Yeah. So, but if you're not comfortable with their orders, you really should go back and write to them and say that, I do not agree. We propose this, you see. So you counter propose your variation. Okay. But normally, unless it's really at the end of the contract, like really like, it's already and ultimately you've already almost get your CPC. And then they suddenly pop up and say, ask you to do VO. Normally, contractor will not, it's not to say that they don't have the right to say no, It's just that it is very uncomfortable. It's a sort of a written hidden rules that you don't say no to that, but when you write to them, it's more on the issues of you are not agreeing to the prices, not agreeing to the scope of work, maybe not agreeing in terms of it technically, but it's not a no. Okay, it's not a no. Yeah, so there is no clauses that say that you're not supposed to reject VOs, but most clients and contractors, they sort of like have an unspoken thingy, between them that says that it's really, they will not say no. Okay, they will not say no. Okay, but of course, if it's too unreasonable, it just means that, what do you mean by unreasonable? Unreasonable could be like totally, you're already at the end of a project and you want me to construct another 10 units, or you want me to get another 7 units from, like do another 7 units car, or do another stretch of the road car, and then, like for a 5-kilometer pipeline, you want me to do another 2-kilometer kind of thing, it's actually too much. Those sort of things should be put under a new contract. You cannot squeeze it under the same contract, and give people like another year, or another 6 months to do this, VO does not have that kind of quantum. You should not go up to that quantum. That quantum with VO usually should float around the contingency sums value. Okay? If it's more than the contingency sums value, that is already too big. Contingency sum values, I'm saying this is not like a standard rules, but this is like a guideline of what is too much and what is too little. Contingency sum, every contract at the end of it, we have a contingency sum. And contingency sum is basically an unactivated amount of money that is placed in the vote of the client should you need to do additional work. And for a few $1 million contract, normally the contingency sum is like $500,000. It's not a lot, it's not like a high percentage of the contingency sum that is going to be put inside there. It's not like you have a 10 million contract and you've got a 9 million contingency sum, or a 5 million contingency sum. Very, very, very rare. Okay, so contingency sum is usually about like maybe 5-10% of the original contract sum. Not a lot of money. Okay, so if you use that as a guideline, then you will know if your request of VO is actually more than the contingency sum, then shouldn't the client be opening up a new contract instead of pushing it under your contract? You see, so that is how we will measure the quantum of what you mean by too much of your. Yeah. And so that is usually what we will see. We base it on, but not a strict rules, not a spoken rules, but it will be a good guideline to see whether you're being ripped off, or whether you're being too much, or whether, the client is being really unreasonable, or, like if that's the contractor realize that, oh, okay, this is a bit too much, I don't have the time to it, you can also negotiate, try to talk to the client and say that I really cannot do this anymore, you see. So see what they say lah. Maybe they won't force it on you. But again, that one is a bit of a bully bichara thing going on already lah. Not so much of a written rules in a contract. Like all contracts are managed by human beings. Human beings have mind, they have emotion, they have mouth, they've got ears, they've got eyes, so we are able to discern whether certain things are actually can be done or cannot be done. We are not robots, you see. So yeah. So don't take contract. I always say this, to all my contract managers, don't take contract like you are a robot. That is a very dangerous thing to do. See, so when you take contract like you're a robot, or AI, then you may run into a lot of problems. You are like a big huge wall that everybody starts to run into you, and then it's going to be a very very unhappy project and a very unhappy site, and nobody enjoys going to work, kind of thing. So that environment, that teamwork, you should know your contract, you know your content, because there is a good power and good bullet you must keep for yourself, but you don't simply do the shooting. We will normally just talk about it, go through it, like use our mouth to, then negotiate and discuss. Same goes with variation. Okay, so we cannot be so rigid as well. Follow the rules, but rules can, not to say rules can be banned, but rules, there's better way of executing the rules most of the time. Okay, it doesn't have to be the hard way. So yeah, so once we've got that change order, it's only upon receiving a formal instructions or change order from the SO, then the variation work can proceed. So you can see, does anybody notice that what I'm saying here has a very big lobang? And that lobang is time. Okay? From giving the instructions to evaluating the amount, to agreeing and negotiating on the amount, to actually changing the contract value with a formal instructions, doing the variation takes time. Okay? Takes time. And does anybody realize that a lot of the time we don't have the time? Yeah. When your site call for variation, yeah, when your site call for variation, it's very fast. Can you do this now? Things like, hey, you want to change this? Hey, we change this. Hey, you better get it going. Otherwise, you're going to delay the project. And I go back and talk to the client about this. So by the time you actually make the changes on site already, the upgrade instructions belum turun lagi. And the changes and the variation, everything will be at the end of the contract. How terrible is that, isn't it? I have not been through one project that this doesn't happen. Okay. So I think there is something not so right about the procedures, or there's something not so right about the timeline in the contract clauses, which I think can be resolved using timeline. So meaning that if we can add in time in our variation clauses, that will be much better. A lot of variation clauses, they talk about valuating the sum, the rates, the prices, but they don't talk about how fast you should do this. And many contractors are on the losing end because they actually go ahead and did the job. Why you can ask, don't get the they're already did the job. But you don't understand the pressure that you get on site, you see? Because that particular part could be linked to the next particular work. If you don't do it now, then the other long stretch will be delayed, you see? And then your men, your machines, all the way are waiting on site, getting ready to do it, flowing the work. Because of this one part you cannot do, most contractors will opt to just get on with it, you see? And that is not very healthy, actually. It's not that they don't know the consequences. A lot of time they do. Some older contractors, like 10, 20 years ago, they may not know the consequences. They are just doing it based on their kindness and based on their, goodness, to the project. But in the end, they got really bad results, So people learn along the way, and they know that now new contractor with professional engineers on board and all that, they all know that we shouldn't do this until you give us a proper instruction or you give us a proper change order. Okay, that is supposed to be the way. And yeah, but then it takes too long, you see. And what contractors worry about is not only money, they worry about the time. You know, if the value is not a lot, they will usually opt to just quickly get it done first. So yeah, so what do I need? What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say here is there may be something wrong with the clauses in our contract. In most of our contract that they don't state the response time. You know, so actually this can be resolved very simply if you have a proper response time like payment. So if let's say when the request comes, it should be valued within a week or within 3 days, you know. And then after that, any change order should be issued within 7 days of the request being made. Then it will actually get everybody to take that variation very seriously and try to work it out very seriously. You know, when the cases that I've spoken about, when all your variation actually is all done and it comes at the end of the contract, they ask the contractor to sign that variation to change the contract sum. It is a very, very big room for dispute. Most of the time, there will be dispute. Dispute that can resolve on site or dispute that cannot be resolved on site and then end up going to arbitration or some form of mediation, some form of ways to dispute resolution. I mean, like, it is really like one of the number one causes for dispute. So because when you receive it, my God, you know, I've done the job and you're only paying me this much. Oh dear, you know, I deduct this, and you're going to deduct half my contract out, you know, something like that. It could be a very big shock, you know, to realize that whatever variation that you've done on site, you've done it, and then people are not paying you, or people are going to deduct a huge amount of money that is absolutely unreasonable. Okay, so here I've got a case that happens in one of the projects in Malaysia. So this is one of the case, MT versus EON. This is a very famous case that a lot of people knows about. It's about deduction variation. It's basically they deducted off the one big part of the job. Okay, they instruct that it's no longer used and therefore it is a omission, but the parties did not agree on how it should be valued. So basically, it's all deducted. I mean, it's taken out. So the contractor says, okay, I didn't do it. That's fine. So then they move on with life. And then when the work for the thing came in, you know, when the work for the thing came in, you know, it was a big shock. You know, apparently they actually took either the BQ rate or, you know, the whole part in the BQ and take it out like that, you know, so it actually reduced the contract by a lot of money, or they actually use what we call per day, you know, like they vary the original baht as a daily rate, you know, like how long it takes, you know, how much it takes to do that per day, you know, and then they end up with this 160 days, they base it on the schedule and if they take it up 150,000 times by 160 days, you know, so the employer argue on that, you know, it's like the work that is supposed to be undertaken is not undertaken, so we are only willing, we are going to deduct based on the days that you're not working, you know, so I mean they're all very good logic here, but in the end, yeah, I mean, you please read through it, you know. So I think the court was clearly uneasy about valuating the money based on schedule. Okay, so I think in the end the contractor actually won the case, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, and it wasn't like what the client says they want to. So don't be too smart ass in a sense. Sometimes some people, some of you working for client, need to be very careful. Because a lot of us, you know, we go Malaysia especially, like we go into this super KPI mode. When they ask you to do KPI, you know, like, oh, you know, I need to meet the KPI, you know, every day is KPI, you know, and then when you don't meet the KPI, you know, you get very so you find all sorts of ways to meet your KPI and make yourself look good in front of the boss kind of thing, you know, and then end up, you know, you may be, you know, coming up with too much of a smart ass KPI thing, you know, and then end up, you know, bring the whole company into a dispute in that sense. So yeah, So finally that boils down to what we talk about in terms of variation of how to value lah, huh? One way to value is of course in the BQ. So most project has BQ. So whatever the rate that you put in BQ, then it's all day. So that when we do measurement for addition or deduction, that was a very straightforward way of looking at the BQ and take it out from the BQs or put it in with the BQ's rate. Another document that is always attached is a schedule of rates. So if it's not clearly break down in the BQ, what we normally do is we go back to the schedule of rates and use the schedule of rates. You understand the difference between schedule of rates and BQ? These are two different set of documents. BQs is where you look at this is prepared by the, I mean, if you've gone through my costing classes, I think I've spoken about this in project management, but if you have not, then yeah, it's just a quick one. So BQ is basically whenever the contractor whenever they want to do tender, we describe the project with drawings, with specifications, with BQs. BQs is a client way of telling you quantity of work. So it should be actually matched with the drawings as well. So they don't want you to client don't want you to do your own estimators worksheet and then submit your own estimators worksheet to them, to tell them how much it costs. So they will give you a very standard schedule here that actually have different works that is related to the project, and then the amount of quantity that is related to the project, and then you put in your rates, and then add it up that way. Final contract sum. So if it's a lump sum contract, then this actually does not matter. In the end, it will be the final, the quantity is not subjected to remeasurement. So in the end, you'll be paid according to the final sum. But if this is a BQ contract or remeasurement contract, then this part here, all the quantity will be recalculated based on the work done. So again, that will actually still reduce or add on to the final sum of the contract. So these are under procurement in project management later on in October semester. Okay, or the one that you've already set for last semester. I think we've explained all that. Okay. So yeah, so now once you've got this, this is a very standard way of calculating the sum of amount of money that is needed to be deducted or add on from the BQ and the associated contract schedule of rates, right? So then the other thing that you can use is based on a separate price schedule. So this one here, this separate price schedule is not from, okay, you can take it as either base it on the schedule of rate completely from your contract, or you can have additional price schedule which is not related to the contract act rule. Okay, so I do not want to confuse you, because here, the upper here also we have a price schedule which is called schedule of rates. Here is also a schedule of rates, but this is a separate schedule of rates. So let's draw a line here. So the upper bit here is all about the project. Okay, the project schedule of rates. So a separate price schedule of rate, it could be like what the other day Hafifi was saying, or is it Hafifi? So somebody was asking me about the cutting grass thing. Yeah, so this could be their own like household. There's a new schedule of rates. Okay, and for JKR they have own specific schedule of rate. It's different from the project schedule of rate. Okay, so if the client based the variation on the separate projects, a separate price schedule, you have to understand they should not do that unless it is actually not available in the project schedule rate. If it is already in the project schedule rate, we should be following the project schedule rate. Say if it's not there in the project schedule rate and they want to use a separate project schedule rate, you have a room to argue. You should be able to argue with them and say that I cannot follow this rate, and then maybe prove it with, like I say, that what you have done, additional pricing from the current market rate that is too far away from the councils or the relative agency schedule rate. This happens a lot in government agency, because government agency, they may have their own separate list of schedule rate that they keep for themselves, and then they base it on that. But most of the time they are not very updated. So some of the rate now that is in 2024 could be something like 2000 or even 2018 or maximum from 2021. And that is currently during the pre-COVID time. And now it's post-COVID. And once like last few years, I think 2011 from 2012 or 2021 onwards, we 2022, I think we were deeply embroiled into all this war between the Ukraine, and Russia, USSR. So yeah, it actually, like up a lot of pricing in the world. And then because of the interest rate that is going up in a lot of countries, especially US, I think last year alone, the Federal Reserve actually, the Federal Reserve Bank actually, which is the main bank that controls like our bank, Negara, actually increased the rate 5 or 6 times of interest rate. Their way of increasing the interest rate is really, really like, and then that really affects a lot of things, the housing market, the purchase powers, and all sorts of stuff. So with the increase of that interest, is about the government way of curbing spending, because the spending is getting too high. When you have very, very low interest, it's very easy for people to borrow money, spend money, use credit card, and then buy things. So when you have high interest, because when you have a lot of money floating in the money market, you are actually, it makes people want to buy things, correct? If you have like 5,000 in your pocket compared to when you have 1,000 in your pocket, you want to buy and splurge and all that. Raya, you want to buy more things and all that. So when you want to buy more things, stock will decrease. So supply will decrease. Supply decrease, it drives up the prices. So it's about supply demand. So when the prices goes up, a lot of materials, a lot of goods, material, petrol, everything will go up. Supply is less because people have more money. So what the US did was actually to increase all the interest rate. Then people find it harder to borrow money, so they tend to spend less. And then it does have an effect. Since 2013 or 2023 until now, I think the US market, in terms of a lot of these goods and all that, the prices has actually become stagnant because the purchasing power has dropped a lot. And the other thing is, you understand, why does it think about US, like that's in Malaysia, but you have to know global economy is like a whole chain, So when US increase the interest rate, and then most investors will be shedding money going over there to put the money over there in their banks, or in their market. So where does that money comes from? It has to come from somewhere. If Malaysia are not increasing their interest rate, if Malaysia are not doing this, then what's going to happen? The money is going to outflow. All the investors, the private bankers, all these sort of people, the trust funds, the investors, they'll take the money out from your country, from Southeast Asia. You see, not only from Malaysia, or from Japan, or from Korea, the places that have lower interest, they will take it out from there. Because obviously, if I put it over on other places, we all know how to choose banks as well, isn't it? Kalau kita punya bank kasih kita 0.5 more interest rate, kita semua pergi sana. So it's a very normal thing. So it does affect our economy as well. So again, like I said, there's a huge changes in prices in the past 2 years because the price changes is huge. It's a very steep curve. So steep so that was very, very shocking. And I think a lot of these agencies did not catch up their prices. So I think it's a good time that they do revision, but I think if they insist on using on a separate price schedule, then they are basically trying to rip off the contractor. You know, it's like, you do it or not. I'm gonna rip you off, like it or not. You know, so that could be the attitude that they are trying to embark. If that is the attitude they're trying to embark, it's like, you know, too bad, you can't do anything. You know, no matter how you negotiate with them, they will not listen. So in this case, you have to know what is their underlying purpose. If their underlying purpose is basically they haven't updated yet, so if you give them a lot of new rates and prices and interest, you know, all the proof of price increase and all that, they will accept it, they will adjust it. Okay. But if their underlying thing is not that they don't know, they don't care, they are saying that, you know, I am the agency here, I am the big boss here, I have the money here, you do it or not, up to you. You did not mount, you know, you're not in my good book. You know, if they're going to flex muscles like that, then there's nothing that you can do to negotiate, honestly. Okay? You have to understand, who is the people there, what is their motives for such a move of asking you to value it based on a separate price schedule. All right, and then let's move on. Yeah, I think this thing here is like I say, when you base it on a separate price schedule, you, like in this case of this MT guy, especially on deduction, this is like, you know, you cannot, you know, they actually like come up with their own way of deducting. So this one has no relationship based. I mean, this has no relationship based on the contract at all. Their separate way of coming up with something different, it can be very difficult, Like I mean, I've mentioned all this just now. I think basically, that, you know, sometimes when they come up with a separate schedule, that schedule is also in a way related to the rates in the tender. Then it's not so bad, okay? But there will be clients that they will cook up their own rates, and it can be very scary, you know, like their own way of doing things, you know. And like in this case, I've already mentioned many times, it is a big room for dispute. So in this case of MT and EON, they end up going on the court dispute. Okay. Yeah. So these are actually in UK basically So here, if we do have such a thing, and it goes up to the court, again, most of the time, the client side will lose in a way just like your pokok thing, you know, like if they say you've already given them the proof that it cannot be 700 anymore, everywhere is charging 1,500, and they still insist on you using 700, and then you say you don't want to do, you know, and then, or even worse, after you do, they give you back using 700, because a lot of variation comes late, so then you can dispute lah. And then when you dispute, it's already in dispute lah. You have to either go to court, or you have to end up going for other dispute resolution method lah. Yeah. So in this case, the client may not win. Yeah. So because in your case, you actually also have your own project schedule. If you don't have your own project schedule, they use a separate schedule, and then they don't give you the schedule. They don't give you the rate until the very end of the project and pay you according to the schedule without any negotiating. Then it is something that, you know, the contractor can what be sing lah, basically lah, that's all I can say lah. They can what be sing lah, What be sing means that you can either write in, you know, and then call for a meeting, ask them to revise, you know, you say disagree, you know, and then all blah blah blah, you know, you can end up, if still cannot resolve, you can, you know, write them a lawyer letter, you know, that kind of thing lah. So go up to the next stage lah, or call for a adjudication process, because this is dealing with money. So you can go and look at SIPA, you know, construction industry payment and what adjudication acts, dealing with money. So you still have room to go up to adjudication to solve the case as well. For many of these cases, like I said, if you dare to do it, you may win, you likely will win, but then of course in the future a bit difficult to get government job. But why it's so difficult? Buka lah company baru kan, so this is what commonly we do lah. You want to blacklist, you blacklist me lah. So later on I get somebody else to open another company, get another license, so buat kerja lagi lah. I mean like, come on lah, a lot of ways in life lah, it's not like many ways to wrong lah, But the thing is teaching you guys all the bad things, Oh dear. You guys okay? Still alive?
Okay, Prof.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah. So I think we are taking a long time, so I don't think I can finish it today actually. All right. So I'll be quick about the next few issues, access to site. Okay, access to site is something that is pretty much required in all contract. It will be there. So this one here usually refers that the contractor, even though you have site possession, okay, to the site, meaning that you own the site at this point in time, but you must allow the client site to be able to come in anytime they want to visit the site. That is pretty much what it means. So you cannot say that just because I own the site and therefore you all cannot come in, you cannot take a look, and all that. So basically, the contract will tell, let the client have access, meaning that they will allow you to come in and visit meeting and then just drive past and take a look, kind of thing. So they allow the client side to do monitor, like additional party. But the thing is, the thing is the obligation still lies with the contractor. Meaning that if the clients, people come in, but if you come in without any early warning, as in, you want to visit a site, and then you suddenly pop up, and then nobody is there, and then you go around on the site, walking around, and then, like maybe it's after 5 already, the site is, people are not around, and then the guard outside know that you are the boss, and then, masuk. And then suddenly, you got picked up by, by the nail or something, you fall down on the side. It's gonna be an issue with this way, So not I think access will usually be on the normal working hours, whereby the site has, the relevant people to receive. You don't have to necessarily make an appointment, but at least some form, do it within the working hours. So let's say you want to take a look at the drawings, or you want to come over to take a look at the progress, these are all, it is all open to access. Okay, but if it's third party is in, some people like university want to visit your site and all this, you can also give access, but that one you really need to make sure that a lot of things are in place, such as insurance, such as safety and health and all that. Otherwise, if not, you allow this access into the responsibility lies with the contractor. Okay, so nothing outside working hours. If there's outside working hours, it has to be a formal request from even the client party. If you want to come after formal working hours, you should make a formal request. Then all the relevant people, like the contractors, will be sensitive, your ESCO can be waiting for you, otherwise nanti jatuh nanti kena tutup, the nail or something like that, and then get injured ayo, susah lah, that one better be careful lah, so and then you go in without any safety and health equipment, you cannot do that. Okay, so these are talking about access, and also the responsibilities of who is taking the responsibility if you allow the access, so it usually will still be with the contractor, so and also delivery of materials, transportation of the materials and all that should be also be allowed, otherwise, how to access the site. I mean, of course, this one, when they come, it has to be guided by the site people. There must be relevant site people around to tell them where to put the things, where to keep it, where to store it, how to stack it up and all that. It cannot be just simply like, oh, masuk sendiri, masuk in out sendiri lah. So this is like a balance. Access of site is referring to, contractor approach to the site as defined in the contract. It means that you have the site, you must allow access of material, of people and all that, but then you must do your job to keep the safety and health in place, and then you must take responsibility, and the responsibility still falls back to the contractor, even though you allow people or material or whatever to come in. So these are access to work. Design of works is this is dealing with alternative design sometimes, So normally for lump sum contract, the contractor is the client is supposed to already have given a full design, a proper formal full design to the contractor already for them to execute the work. If the contractor actually dispute that, certain things cannot be done during the contract period, you will be normally request to give alternative. It's the contractor's responsibility to check through the design actually before you actually start. But obviously this cannot be 100%. Many times it's only in the middle of the work, somewhere, as you begin the work, you realize that certain things cannot be done. But you have to report that thing that cannot be done and ask for alternative design. That will be usually the best way to go. Okay. A lot of contractor likes to be careful, so they will say that, I cannot do it like this lah. I can do it like this, like that. Then you go and come up with all sorts of alternative. And when you come up with this alternative, and then they agree to that alternative, the responsibilities is yours. Okay? Because you are the one that proposed the alternative. And client nowadays also very smart. They will say that, okay, you propose this alternative, I need you to get an external PEPC to verify top and sign. So very common, you will see that alternative design will come at the responsibilities of the contractors with their own PEPC. So if something happens to that part of the work, it will be the PEPC external who actually will be responsible. But if you look at it another way, it's not very smart also, because the whole project is designed by one guy, and then you come in and going to change one part, so yes, the other side needs to agree to it, but they are not whole responsible. So if something on the part that you propose actually go bad or go sour, yes, that is very obvious. It's under your responsibilities as a contractor. But what about if it's the intermittent part? Like, project is not so clear cut, this is your area, this is my area kind of thing, So it's not so difficult, it's not so easy to actually manage it if you actually go for dispute later. Because if you can say that it's not because of my design, it's because of your design, and then the two-side consultant will actually dispute, It's like, hey, your design disturbed my design, or your design in the first place is lousy. That's why my one, even better also cannot help already. So there is a lot of these dispute possibilities, that can come in, if you have this alternative design. So normally, the good way, the this way is go back to the original consultant, ask them to propose a design. And you may ask, why is that not done? Anyone have this question? Why they're not done? Why the original consultant don't propose the design? Because the client is not paying them. Okay? A lot of issues comes in because the client refused to pay for the additional thing. You see? That is the issue. So because if the client asks the contractor to find their own PEPC to do the design, contractors pay for it. If they go back to their own original designer, to change the design, the designer may charge. Even they charge, even if they don't charge a full sum, they may charge per hour. Because it's not their fault, but unless it's obviously their fault that something is not working. So something on site that is not working, that is referring to the original design or existing design, they want an alternative design, you have to pay. Private clients don't want to pay. Government agency also don't want to pay. So, very smart lah. Ask the contractor to propose lah. And then write in the contract there and say that even if we agree to it, we have whole no responsibilities to it. Already got all the ask covered. But seriously, there's no completely leak proof. Nothing is leak proof in this world, okay? There's no secret in this world one. Huh? Sure or not? Can
Yeah,
how much time
doctor.
you tell you don't tell people this, I tell you this, and then tomorrow, another guy said, okay, I tell you this, you don't tell people this. Every day, everybody knows about the secret already. So here, even though the contract says this, so sangat, sangat handas ni, like super, like whoever writes it. But in the end, if you really have a problem, some design failures, something doesn't work, if it is dispute coming out, this thing doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't guarantee you one. There's no such thing as guarantee one. Okay. Meaning that if you go to court, you still could lose the case, kind of stuff. Yeah. But it is a very common ways now. It's a very common way now for this client side to push that alternative design responsibilities onto the contractor. But in the old days, if it's a lump sum contract, very clear one. I, as a contractor, I borrow, I tidak tahu, I duduk sana, give me alternative design. Kalau tidak give me, I tak lupa buat kerja. So the borrow way is actually the good way, the right way. Because the original designer knows the principle of his original design. He used what kind of loading, he used what kind of calculation, dia orang tahu. So if they want alternative, they should be the one proposing. So unfortunately, because the system nowadays is the client don't want to pay. Many consultancy contract, especially with government agency, do not want to pay for this sort of additional services. And then they don't want to pay. The consultant say, I don't want to do that. How much responsibilities? I do the alternative design. I have to guarantee this is there for the lifetime. I don't want to be so stupid. Dia orang bukan bodoh juga. So it's the after contractor propose lah. Contractor propose, takut contractor propose itu tak professional, not professional enough. So even smarter, hey contractor, you must cari your own PEPC. Look at the design. But no matter how good that guy is, your original design, dia tak ada data your original design. Does the alternative design guy has the soil condition, has the thing here? Don't have. So it's a very dangerous thing, actually. Very dangerous thing. Even though contractually surface, it looks very perfect, but it's actually not foolproof. Okay? If you say that alternative design in terms of, let's say, the contractor themselves do something wrong, filing, they file, then they said, okay, I give you alternative design. So I ask my own consultant to actually, design another pile, next to it, and then recalculate the pile punya, the depth pile punya capacities. That one, okay. That one is obviously in the first place there is some fault with the work already. So this sort of responsibilities line is very clear cut. Okay, this is very clear cut. So it's already like, let's say if it's a failure and it's most likely to be felt at that location, it's because of the original one that is not properly done. So that one is a lot more clear cut. And so when you want to add in things or you want to change things as a client, you should get your original consultant to actually propose the design. Okay? Another areas is very common with this sort of things is roofing. I think all you would know this. The consultant do everything, all the design, structure, everything, but don't do the roofing design. So they want the contractor to propose their own roofing supplier and ask the roofing supplier to do redesign. And then must chopped and signed by PEPC. Again, on the contractual level, it looks really clean. But on the practice level, how interesting is that? I mean, how bad is this? You know, you have one structure, two designers, one for the roofing, one for the structure themselves. And when failure comes, right, not all the failures is very clean cut one, you know. It could be caused by something that is under there that caused the roof to fail. It could be the wind blow, cause the roof to collapse and cause the rest of the structure to collapse. This is all. Who is going to do the forensic? Again, as a client, who are you going to go for? You go for the roof, or do you go for the structure one? Both say no, nothing to do with me. My design is perfect. I mean, this is our currently what is happening in the industry, which I think is a bit interesting that I'm sharing with you guys. I think it's an interesting thing that deals with this design of work. So practice and design of work. Okay, so yeah. Okay, and then suspension of works, and then the rest is termination. I think termination, remedials, and NCE insurances. Okay. I think let's finish up with suspension. Okay, we finish suspension for now, and then after that termination is a very long thing. Okay, it's a longer thing. Okay, so I think I will leave suspension for the next class. Kalau kita buat suspension, I think maybe, you know, to finish up is probably going to take more than 1 hour. So let's finish up with suspension. Where's my suspension? Okay, then we will call it a day. Okay. So suspension of work in construction is about stopping the work. Okay. This thing does not mean that it's actually bad or good. I mean, like what it signifies, we have to look at different scenarios. There's many reasons for suspending work. It can vary. Number one, the most common way of suspending the work is actually there's no common law right that allows suspension of works of suspension of performance of work. However, contractually and statutory provision under the works may be suspended. Means that contractually, if you have some clauses on suspension of work, then you can do that. Okay, and there may be some statutory provisions as well. The terms and conditions for suspension of work typically outlined in the contract itself. The contract may specify certain circumstances where the work can be suspended and what are the procedures for it. So one of the most common thing is the owner directs the contractor to stop all parts of the work or one part of the work. Okay. The most common way is not nobody's problem. It could be like got labor strike. You know, there is issues with flooding. All these war scar, commotion scar, strike scar, external COVID scar. This is a very typical COVID suspension of work. Okay. So pandemic is definitely one of the very typical reasons for suspension of work. So suspension of work may or may not cause a delay to the project, and which normally it will be. What it means is if you suspend the work based on this sort of reason, supposed to be the clock must stop. Okay, the clock must stop, meaning that whatever left in the contract has to be recalculated based on after the suspension is being release in that sense. So what you need to do is, because you suspend the work for 3 months or 6 months, so actually your contract was 18 months. So you cannot calculate that kind of suspension within that 18 months. Okay, so it has to be like, okay, you've already worked for 6 months, you suspend for 6 months, there's only 12 months. When you reopen the work, there should be 12 months left. Okay, but again, it's not so simple. Because why? It's not directly that 12 months left. Yeah. Because why? After you suspend the work for a long period of time, many things on the site may not be well anymore. So it could be when you, at the point of suspension, if you have continued with your work, you could smoothly finish in 12 months. But because you suspend for 6 months, there may be something that is rosak, something that people come in and start to vandalize, something that is stolen. The site is empty for 6 months. Anything could have happened. Some of the interior part is already not covered, so it's like rain, shine. It's not in good condition. So there may be a need for the contractor, to come back and do a lot of repay work before you can continue with the work. You see the picture. So a lot of new, under the COVID suspension, this is the part that many agencies do not know how to handle. They do not know how to give EOT. They do not know how to recount the time. And then the contractor says that I need extra time. Okay, you cannot just give me the rest of the time like top plus, original leftover. Dia bukan simple mathematics like this. And then both sides has different way of calculating. But personally, I feel like the contract does not have enough of procedures. Most of contracts in Malaysia do not have enough procedures talking about this. This is some areas of research that we can actually look at. So for people who are not having any RP1 project, if you're thinking about doing something like this for your RP1, you're very welcome to talk to me. A bit of advertisement, not really lah. Just kidding. I mean, but it's like this is quite an interesting topic actually. To see if we can improve a lot of. I think personally, I feel like after COVID, it's a big thing. It doesn't happen in Malaysia much. There's disasters don't occur in Malaysia that often. Very fortunately. So because of that, many things are not for in our original contract. So having this sort of situation post-COVID, we should really look at a new way of looking at contract and improving our contract to give a better version as we go along in the industry. I mean, these are something that is worth exploring in that sense. Okay, so but many of these work are actually in the contract itself. Only owner can call for suspension. So it normally sets down the rules of how owner can call for suspension. So as a contractor, unfortunately, you don't work pandai and say that, you don't pay me, so I suspend my work. A lot of contractors like to think like that. Because you don't pay me, and I will suspend the work, I will stop working. Very dangerous to the contractor, because most contract documents will say the owner can call for suspension, contractor cannot call. And the clauses in terms of non-payment and late payment does not actually allows you to. There's no clauses there that allows you to penalize the owner by suspending the work. So a lot of time, if you want to cari mati, you can do this. You can just go up and say that you don't pay me already 6 months. You don't pay me, so I leave. I go away. I take everything up. In a way, you are calling for suspension. Or you write in and you say, I suspend my work. It has no effect on my dear. Okay, you cannot do that. The moment you do that, you are in the wrong already. You are being accused of not working with due diligence. So this is the time that you should even leave 4 or 5 guys running around on site, like I always say. One machine, jalan sini sana. You must have some activities. If you don't have any activities, memang you'll be called for not working with due diligence, and then what will be waiting for you will be LAD because you delayed the contract. Okay, you see how these things are. Okay, so contractors, you don't suspend work. Okay, so owner, you suspend work, but there are ways of suspending work. There are ways of suspending. I mean, there are procedures for suspending work. So you need to give a suspension order, and most likely, like I said, it has to be some form of natural disaster, something that is an act of God, something that cannot be helped. Okay, then you will call for a suspension. Then after that, it needs to be renegotiated in terms of time. Okay, costs may not be renegotiated. Usually, it's time. Time is the part that we really will have a lot of issue. So how much EOT to give, and then pay. Not to say payment has no issue, because there's a lot of repay work going on as well. So who is going to pay for that? And then because you cannot settle the EOT part, okay, a lot of the issue comes with agency kind of contracts because they do not know how to move forward after the suspension. So they keep on ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. So when the ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, then the contract period keep on lapsing. And when the contract period keeps on lapsing, they keep on charging LAD. And then they don't want to pay the contractor. So then it becomes a payment issue. So this time issue linked into becoming a payment issue. So there is a whole flow, of problems because of suspension. So there must be a proper way of, after issuing suspension, how to revive the work. Okay, most contract will stop at giving suspension, but the reviving of the work is very much open to the agency and the contractor. So, but you have to read your contract carefully. There may be some contract that is a bit clearer about that. There may be some contract after COVID they've already revamped it already. Maybe like places like JKR and all that, they will have a separate, separate documents that describe how to revive after after suspension. So a lot of contractor consultant, they don't. You hear that a lot of them don't receive money. They don't receive payment. They don't receive payment for like the year. 6 months. Kind of thing. Keep on terkendala the payment. It's because of this. Because of suspension, when the work is revived, they do not know how much EOT to give, and then they do not count. Then they don't properly count. And also the work that is needing to be repaired, needing to be revived, and all that. That part is not settled. Is it? So then the contract moves into the delay mode. And then when it goes into that delay mode, LAD was charged. And when LAD was charged, it becomes like a very, very big issue. Or basically, the contractor do not want to do anything until they get all these things, the time, the EOT bit and the cost be settled. So then whatever that is pre-COVID things that they actually do, the payment is not made because this part is not clear. So it's like a chain effect, huh? It's like a chain effect. Okay, so yeah, suspension due to non-payment by client. Well, very difficult, very difficult. It is possible to allow, but that must be stated in the contract. Okay. It may, you may be entitled, but you don't want to do that. You may think that you can. I mean, logically you can, and contractually it doesn't say you cannot, but it also doesn't say you can. You see, so unless it's very specifically, it is one of the penalty or one of the remedies for non-payment. But I can almost guarantee you that I see so many contracts in my life in Malaysia, there is no suspension by contractor due to non-payment. Okay, but overseas, yes. Okay, it is important to note that the contract specifically allowed for suspension or for situation to up. Okay, yeah, I put it is. It must be already outlined. Otherwise, you cannot do that. But then even if you want to do that, you must have provided a lot a lot of proof, okay? Meaning that from the day that you don't receive payment, you have been writing and writing and writing, you know, calling for meeting, minutes taken down in the meeting, sending lawyer letters and saying that you have to pay me, you know, etc., etc. So it only you have already built up a sufficient case, then you say that fine, I'm going out here. But even if you do that for the first few months, for the early stages of suspension, try to just put in a few workers there. Don't leave the site empty. Otherwise, you may be running into accusation. You have to see the situation. If it's really a dead project, klien itu memang nak bankrupt sudah, dia sudah lari sampai tidak mau, lari sama don't know where already. You have to be, that one maybe, you know, you just go lah, huh? I mean, in the end, it's probably not much of a problem because that guy will have no time to deal with you anyway, you see. So he's probably like owing like, you know, so many people money out there, you know. So yeah, but if it's just a suspension, like maybe because the client themselves, they are having a bit of difficulties and all that, and then you move into this suspension mode, then you have to be very careful. And then you don't do that, especially with government agency as well, because government agency at the moment don't go bankrupt. So I mean, they will be around, you know, they may be messy at that point in time, but when things got a mess already, when they come back and deal with you, then it could be quite a lot of issues here that is left over. So you see lah, you see who your opponent is lah. I cannot really, you know, tell you that, you know, there's exact rules here in that sense. But normally, no contract in Malaysia actually state that the contractor can do suspension. Okay, that is for sure. And then, so if you want to do suspension, you must have a lot of proof. Suspension due to non-payment, you are entitled actually, but you must have enough of proof saying that you've already asked for payment, you've already been negotiating with them, you've already given them a lot of options for payment, and yet they are not doing it, and therefore you are unable to continue with the work until the contractors come back, the client come back and renegotiate all the outstanding payment and also future way of moving ahead. Yeah. So that usually when you do that, you can go out. Then maybe the project may be bought over by other people, another company take over. When they see this sort of letter and proof like that, they will come back and renegotiate with you. That will be usually the case. Or if let's say you're very sure the project will be revived very soon, so don't go away completely. Leave something there. Leave a few people there doing a few minor work, repair, jaga site pun boleh, something like that. So then you are not actually called to say that you are a lazy contractor, that you have not done your responsibilities, that you have not worked with due diligence. Okay, so that would be the story with suspension. Okay, so the other thing that can be issue is when the client call for suspension, is the fact that you are not working with due diligence. That means they want to terminate you already, or especially you have not done your work properly, meaning that they've already told us that some part is very, very badly done, and then they ask you to do repair, and then you keep on sending you all the non-compliance, sending the contractor a lot of non-compliance report, and the contractor just couldn't be bothered, or they are actually like, you know, leaving a few guys running around on site, but the client is not paying them. Okay, you know, like this happens to some contractor because when the prices are, when the market is dry, there's no job, they take out a lot of jobs, you know, and then, you know, they go for cheap, and then later on when the job market is better back again, you know, they put their guys away to some other job. Then the client is in the very difficult position. Terminate you pun susah. Keep on informing you to work, you pun tidak mau datang. So these are the things that client also face. To be fair, we also have very, very lousy contractor. We also have very, very bad clients. All sorts of people in this industry. Okay, so and that is why we need a contract. Okay, so if a contractor fails to work properly, the client, again, yes, you have the right to suspend due to contractor's failure of work or non-diligence. But again, in this situation, in both this situation of non-payment against contractor not working, both sides needs to build up your case, meaning that the client needs to write to the contractor, needs to have proof, needs to have, with technology nowadays so hung up, easy, take videos about the contractors, put a CCTV, look at the site, contractor is not working, they are not coming to work, you've been calling them, you've been emailing them, you've been writing to them, they are not working with due diligence, then you call for your suspension of work. Okay? Make sure that you have enough of proof to cover your own ass later. Contractor side is the same also. If they don't pay you, also you need to write, very diligently writing, very diligently ask for meetings, very diligently offer solution, kind of thing. Some contractor maybe say, you don't pay me, but maybe one of these house I buy from you lah, contra lah, something like that. If they offer you something like that, and then yet you still don't want to pay them, then they call for suspension of work. Then the case is built up, So in the first case here, for reasons of suspension, you must have your case built up. Okay? If you don't have your case built up, later on, if the other side come back and dispute, then there's a problem. With external factor that is not within both parties' control, it's always not an issue to suspend. The suspension is always very straightforward, but the very the issues will lie in the reviving of work. When you want to come back and work, then that is where dispute may come. Dispute in terms of repair, dispute in terms of money to repair, time to repair, and how much extra time you need to give to the contractor. And because the contractor has already committed to other things at that point in time, how you get them to come back and do for your side. But if it's a general overall suspension for every way, then it's actually not so much of an issue when it comes to contractor already have a new job because you suspended work for too long. But there are issues that the client actually don't have money, or whatever, they want to suspend the work. Then you can actually that could be an issue later on. You need to renegotiate with the contractor on the terms and conditions. So there's two scenarios here. So effects, definitely there will be suspension of costs due to damages, extension of time requests. So these are something that applicable. Then in some cases the work is demobilized already, then you come back and remobilize. There's some remobilization costs as well, etc., etc. So that it must be some form of way to recover. The recovery part is missing in the contract. So again, you must negotiate for it. But of course, it is this how called suspension. I think you can read through this yourself. Termination. So I think it's better to actually suspension is really you know that you are going to come back to it. But then if it's really thinking that you don't have any way of coming back to it, going for termination may be a better solution. So we will talk about termination later on now. So yeah, here are some effects of the suspension, and then can claim cost under suspension of work, and then may not result in extension of time whereby the critical path is not. So importance so on the collective basis, the typical there must be a close talking about suspension if you want to execute suspension. So contractually, it has to be there. Otherwise, you cannot simply execute suspension because statutory. I mean, in terms of statutory law, common law, there is nothing. There's nothing saying about suspension. Okay, so it's all usually based on contract. So there are this is the case, a legal case on suspension that happens in Malaysia. Is it in Malaysia? I think so. I think it is in Malaysia. Yeah, MLJ is in Malaysia. Okay, so maybe you can have a read through it and see how what you can do. Okay, I mean like what you can understand. Okay, but the gist of the matters is like that. How you cannot simply call for suspension. So don't be pandai every day say that the contractor is not working, and then the site people say I suspend you. It's not that easy. Okay, and contractor also cannot be saying things like, oh, okay, you don't pay me, I suspend the work law. If you don't pay me, I suspend the work law. It's not so easy lah. So that kind of cases you have to be more. This is more frequently happening rather than the standard normal outside forces, external forces kind of suspension. External forces suspension, it can also be dealing with change in law as well, change in the rules, change in the law, change in the legislation. And that one can also be one of the reasons, but that one is actually under external. All of that is always easier to deal with if you can sort out the revival, the recovery. You must sort out the recovery, and it takes time to solve the recovery. So I think it's a sincerity on both sides to want to come back and recover the work. So when you come to that stage where things cannot be helped already, I think both sides must have that open-mindedness and that open heart to come back and sit on the negotiation table and say that, okay, this thing cannot be helped. You don't want it, I don't want it, but now we are here, we are together. Let's see if we can make the best out of it, and let's talk about our terms and conditions and see if we can come to a middle ground whereby sides are actually satisfied with a way to recover the work, the cost to recover, and the time to recover. That is, I think, the most mature way of anybody who is actually managing a project go for. Okay, not the part that how do I in a situation where nobody can help already. It's like after COVID, nobody can help COVID, nobody can help the effect of COVID, and yet you guys are sitting on the negotiation table trying to outdo one another. Try to even take more things out of one another. What's the point? Kalau duat is already so bad the situation, or both sides is already not in good state. Why you want to still kill each other's throat? Why not just sit down and say how to make each other better? I mean, that should be the approach lah. But again, like I said, contract is managed by people, so people have their own character, and many unfortunately government agencies have a very stupid thing called KPI, and when this KPI starts to come into picture, a lot of officers in the government agency, a lot of engineers in the government agency, all they see in the bubble in their head is KPI, and they forget that things are not that way, not supposed to be that way. You see, so they strictly follow how I reach my KPI to save money, how I reach my KPI not to bring up my organization, and then they forgot that to bring up the organization, to be a better organization, you need different group of people to be working together with you. You need a supplier to support you. You need a contractor to support you. You need your own staff, your external authority, other people, the public, and all that to support you as well. And it's no good if the project is left unfinished. You fulfill a KPI, but the project is still hanging. Contractors are not paid. Your organization gain a bad reputation. These are all the negative effect that will come after that. So yeah, we have to be finding the very line of balance in that sense. Right. Don't say I say stupid. I mean, otherwise I'll be invited to drink coffee later on by some people. Just between you. I mean, like in that sense. But a lot of things that we can improve. That's what I'm trying to say. First and foremost, must remember how we are professional engineers, and some people QSs here as well. In QSs, I think we'll feel this quite a lot more as well, because QSs actually sometimes I feel like QSs, they don't go to the site, so they don't see the situation on site. Everything is based on paper, based on numbers. So they are the one that sometimes follow the KPI to the maximum, and then follow the contract to the maximum, and they forgot how to find that middle ground. I think it's not so bad for engineers. Engineers, because we are in touch with the ground people, we are more in touch with the surrounding of the contractors and all that. So we understand their issues, we understand their problems, and then we see what we can do, not to sacrifice our own organization interests, but to see if we can be a bit more fairer and stand in the middle ground to help them so that they can come back to work with us even better and more willingly work with us and give us that priority to finish the work on our side. These are all additional things that is an intangible benefit that we get, you see, that we don't see sometimes. Right? Okay, I think the rest I will continue on to during next week. Okay, and then so from termination onwards, I will continue on. And if there's any issues you want me to cover, we'll fully finish contract management next week, And then, of course, I will move on to dispute resolution again next week. Next week, we'll probably have a longer class, because we also need to talk about exams tips and all that. All right. If there's nothing, no questions or anything, we can, move on. And then next week, hopefully, some of you will show me your assignment. Okay, please do so.
Okay, Doctor.
All right, so next half,
Okay, Doctor. Sure.
next half,
Okay,
class, I
doctor.
will put up, I will put up some, I will put up some pre-recorded lecture for you all, but you don't have to listen to it today because it's on the law of tort. Law of tort is a separate area of law that is applicable to engineers. Okay, it's about negligence, duty of care, and standard of care. Right then, so I'll see you guys.
Thank you,
Anything
Doctor.
else you want to talk about, you can stay back if you want, okay? Or So do show me your assignments again next week. So next week we have to be back for a full blast class. Maybe not up to 6 hours, but at least we will do about 4 to 5 hours. I assume. I assume.
Okay, Doctor.
See you guys.
Alright.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much,
Hari
Dr.
Raya.
Thank
Ting.
you, doctor.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Doctor.
Thank you, doctor.
Selamat Hari Raya,
Bye.
Thank you,
everybody.
Doctor.
Hari Raya.
Raya.
Eat more curry. Yeah.
Open house.
Have a house. You open house.
Come, Doctor.
I open house. I tak pandai masak kari.
Come, Doctor.